2022 will be a pivotal year for ThesisGate. The Watergate scandal in the U.S. happened in 1972, but it wasn't until 1974, 1.5 years into President Richard Nixon's second term, that it drew massive attention. The resulting fallout led to Nixon's resignation. However, ThesisGate and Watergate's circumstances differ. For one, Taiwan has no informants willing to speak up. Taiwan's legislature also lacks investigative powers to hold its president accountable. Whereas impeachment is a simple procedure in the US, it's much more difficult to carry out in Taiwan. While a few opposition lawmakers dare to seek the truth, many choose to turn a blind eye to Tsai Ing-wen's flagrant academic dishonesty. Tsai Ing-wen has the political advantage, meaning the chances of her coming clean are minuscule. ThesisGate shows that Taiwan's democracy has failed. One person wields absolute administrative, legislative, and judicial power. At the end of 2021, a ruling surfaced that indicated the LSE Council denied holding records on Tsai Ing-wen's Viva. Despite this news setting the internet ablaze, TV and other media outlets did not air this important development. This is a failure of the Fourth Estate. Each day that Tsai Ing-wen remains in power is another day she has to poison Taiwan's democracy. A full and true democracy is one where people have the power to bring down their own president. There is no need to search for the truth behind ThesisGate, as the three scholars have already meticulously uncovered it. However, a president's resignation must originate from the demands of the people. The three scholars have done what they can, but taking down Tsai Ing-wen requires political vigilance and participation from the citizenry. On December 25, 2021, NTU professor Zhang Yazong held a rally outside the presidential office, the first ThesisGate street demonstration.
我个人是认为他没有论文，如果有论文的话，就直接拿出来就可以了嘛，何必去告人呢？所以这个博士是假的，我们一定要让他下台。
我是在南部我觉得平时那么关心我利用这个机会来看看大家的热情在哪里，那彼此互相打气希望把这个假论文把它呢抓下来，因为这个。 对整个国家来讲，这种公益的事情一点也不能够模糊。
我不想台湾没有真理，我们以后怎么教小孩子，就这么简单。所以我今天走出来了。
整个蔡英文论文门的事情维持了这么久可以用我们大家的纳税人的纳税金去这么为非作歹，我觉得实在是很难忍受下去，所以我们一定要。 想办法有所行动。
我觉得这个活动是必须要参加的，因为它是代表一个公平、正义还有真相的一个不容模糊的一个空间。
其实我觉得做人这是一个诚实的态度来面对这个事情。既然没有的话，那就是跟大众就公开认清、说明清楚，不要再一直在掩饰下去。
我们台湾民众对于这个蔡英文假博士的这个议题还不够投入，那我们的民众关注的太少，然后当然我们的在野党投入的也太少。那像今天呢，国民党跟一些民众党、其他的在野党，他们并没有动员很多的人站出来参与这样的活动。我觉得这个是他们很不尽力的一个表现。 那我觉得呢，他们不能就这样子让民众自主的来参与这个活动，之后就来割韭菜。那我觉得这个议题呢，必须要人民跟在野党一起来努力，让贾博士能够下台。
There are many would-be pundits online who say ThesisGate isn't important. However, many young and upstanding individuals attended Zhang's rally. Many young mothers brought their children to teach them the value of integrity. The rally proved that ThesisGate has long transcended bipartisan politics. It's a matter of public trust and our society's tolerance for malfeasance. Just as one of the interviewees said, opposition parties are just as much to blame for ThesisGate dragging on. Politicians still have time to join ThesisGate's ranks and stand on the side of truth. On the day of the rally, the weather was a brisk 14 degrees Celsius. The event was only advertised online for less than 10 days. Not to mention, Tsai's cyber army actively suppressed mentions of the event, stifling its exposure. And still, 3,000 people attended the event. Each and every participant symbolized the new hope the movement will have in 2020. While Tsai Ing-wen continues to dodge questions and hide inside the presidential office, a new poll suggests that a crisis is looming overhead for her. The Taiwan Foundation for Democracy published its ThesisGate findings on December 28, 2021, and compared them to earlier polls. The number of people who found Tsai's education problematic grew by 4.6%. Even under strict watch and suppression, investigators managed to convince over 1 million people that Tsai's thesis is problematic. 28.4% of people in Taiwan now believe Tsai's education credentials to be problematic. That's 1 in every 4 people. However, the poll also revealed that 30% of people got their information from mainstream TV news channels or flat out did not care about the issue, which does not help the ThesisGate cause. Investigators have organized countless press conferences and hearings, and it seems that these efforts are making some headway. Still, with Tsai's cyber army and their information warfare tactics, getting the truth to people over the past 2 years has proven difficult. The most interesting thing about this poll is that there is a steep decline in diehard Tsai supporters. 2 years ago, 25.2% of people believed wholeheartedly in Tsai Ing-wen's thesis. The latest poll shows that number has declined to 15.6%. In other words, 2.2 million people went from completely believing in Tsai's thesis to harboring doubts about it. This is the most important finding the poll has revealed. This poll is a slap in the face to the mainstream media news outlets who avoid reporting on ThesisGate. They're failing to report on a topic that over 80% of people have concerns about. Despite Tsai's efforts to suppress the news, doubts about her thesis continue to grow. Of course, all this is transpiring because the truth cannot be changed. What happened, happened. The presidential office can't do much more than repeat their tired statements. They can only handle ThesisGate by manipulating the courts and sustaining their cover-up. On the flip side, our investigators have many different courses of action available to them. Developments in London continue to progress. As ThesisGate gains momentum, Tsai's credibility will begin to rupture. One little push might be all it takes to unravel this scandal. Last year, on September 27th, overseas Taiwanese funded a series of newspaper ads calling for Tsai's resignation in publications based in Australia, Taiwan, the US, and Canada, among other places. All the ads were printed in Chinese-language newspapers. The campaign forced Tsai Ing-wen to explain herself and dismiss the ads as foreign interference at the DPP's 35th anniversary. This isn't the first time Tsai Ing-wen had to spin her academic dishonesty as an outside threat. In December 2020, prosecutors charged He Jianhua, saying that China provided news about Tsai's academic dishonesty, which was then given to Dr. Dennis Pang. ThesisGate was just a matter of media manipulation underscored by threats to national security. Shortly into 2022, Taiwan's overseas community rallied once again, this time raising funds for another newspaper campaign. Cao Changqing called people to action in a publication, once again imploring Tsai to step down. He said it was time to push ThesisGate into the mainstream English media, this time with an English ad calling for Tsai's resignation. This would be the first shot fired in the ThesisGate war in 2022. Cao explained the reasoning behind why ThesisGate existed in the simplest terms. The idea was to help people understand why the controversy existed in the first place. Cao's publication was not only meant to get the word out, but it was also a strategic precursor to the court battles that were about to take place in London by bridging the scandal to the attention of the English-speaking world. He wanted the British and American public to know that Tsai had gotten away with academic dishonesty for far too long. Cao's article touched upon numerous important topics. Tsai Ing-wen never submitted a doctoral thesis to her school. She only managed to get something resembling a thesis into a library at her supposed alma mater, LSE, in 2019, 35 years after her self-proclaimed graduation. Even though the school accepted Tsai's submission, it doesn't change the fact that she did not have a thesis at the school for some 35 years. Without a thesis, there can be no degree. That is a basic principle. Schools say they lost Tsai Ing-wen's thesis, and Tsai says she lost her diploma. There is perhaps no other PhD in the world who has come under the same curious set of circumstances. Barring fire, earthquake, or other natural disaster, there is no reason why a PhD candidate should lose both their diploma and thesis. The probability of something like that happening is close to zero. Furthermore, Tsai Ing-wen applied for replacement diplomas twice. Someone losing their diploma that often is just absurd. Anyone looking to get a PhD must go through rigorous examination. This involves a doctoral defense overseen by examiners. Even today, Tsai Ing-wen still refuses to divulge who her examiners were. The University of London says that it's a matter of personal information and refuses to answer the question. In today's society, the identities of people handling high-profile public projects are commonly disclosed. This includes judges in important court cases. Private information cannot be a valid reason to conceal such crucial information, especially when it comes to validating a president's credentials. This issue has been discussed in UK courts. By order of the judge, the LSE Council was forced to admit that they don't have any records on Tsai Ing-wen's Viva or her examiners. Without a thesis, there is no PhD. Without Viva reports, there's even less proof that a PhD exists. A weak thesis entry, 2 reissued diplomas, and a lack of Viva reports all indicate that Tsai Ing-wen does not have a thesis. Some people ask why LSE doesn't just come out and admit that it did not give Tsai Ing-wen a proper diploma. People will ask why LSE chooses to cover for Tsai Ing-wen. The answer may lie in LSE's history with academic fraud. In the past, the school was caught in another scandal involving Saif Gaddafi, son of Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi. Gaddafi had donated millions of pounds to the school in exchange for a doctorate. LSE went so far as to use the money to construct a new building. This debacle led Simon Jenkins of The Guardian to question whether the school had sold its soul for money. So the question is, did LSE grant Tsai Ing-wen a PhD for money? From what has been discovered, Si Fanglong, a self-proclaimed LSE representative who speaks in support of Tsai, once received an anonymous donation of £480,000. The donation was gifted to Shi. It's very possible that the donation originated from Tsai or another Taiwanese institution. A PhD is not a prerequisite for being president. Credibility and integrity, however, are absolutely key qualities any president must have. Taiwanese society should not tolerate anyone who attempts to use ill-gotten education credentials to garner a position of leadership. Tao's article was not only directed at Tsai, it was directed at her accomplices. It would expose to American and British media Tsai Ing-wen's lack of definitive credentials. It would reveal how her missing thesis was absent for 35 years. It would also describe the suspicious £480,000 donation in great detail. What will Western society have to say about such flagrant wrongdoing at a respected institution of higher learning in the UK? 2022 will be a pivotal year for ThesisGate. Last episode, we revealed how the LSE Council told the tribunal it denied holding Tsai Ing-wen's Viva records, essentially placing responsibility on the University of London. This move also allowed us to focus our sights on the University of London instead of LSE. At the time, Tsai Ing-wen's lawyer Lien Yuanlong published a 4-part statement to try and distort the truth. At first, he said that LSE was the only authority that could comment on Tsai's degree. However, the third part of his statement said, when LSE separated from the University of London, student information had to be reallocated. Each school and college had different rules for deciding which institution kept what information. It's clear that Tsai Ing-wen's information was sent to the University of London, which explains why LSE says it does not have any records and why the UOL tells the ICO it does. Lien Yuanlong's statement doesn't dare say specifically where Tsai's records are stored. He constantly uses uncertain terms to imply that the University of London is the one that has Tsai's records. However, didn't Tsai's side already get relevant records? Didn't they use those records to litigate against the 3 scholars on September 3rd, 2019? How can they endorse the explanation that LSE doesn't have any records when they say that's where Tsai got her records from? All these developments, these statements, these inane explanations are orchestrated by Kevin Haynes, Rachel McGuire, and Tsai Ing-wen's team. They used the LSE archives as a front for disseminating false records of Tsai's academic achievements. There's no way that LSE does not have any information about Tsai Ing-wen's Viva, even after the school split from the University of London. At the very least, LSE's law department should have kept records on Tsai. A Viva entry form should also have been kept. If none of those items exist, the only possible explanation is that Tsai Ing-wen never participated in a Viva. The explanation of Tsai and her defenders has crumbled. They can't account for what the LSE Council said, and yet they continue to hint that Tsai's records are at the University of London. Though it is illogical, that is the only well they can draw from. After the LSE Council's announcement on November 26, 2011, one diligent investigator went straight to whatdotheyknow.com and asked a crucial question. Since Lien Yuanlong admitted that LSE didn't keep any records and implied that relevant information was being kept at the University of London, the investigator went to whatdottheyknow.com and asked the all-important question. Dear University of London, first, I am not inquiring about a certain person's viva. I would only like to know the nature of the information held. Under normal circumstances, are viva records from PhDs obtained before 2008 stored at the University of London? Anything pertaining to the viva, i.e. dates, examiners, reports, would apply. For example, does the University of London hold information on 1984 PhD graduate Jose Enrique Molina Vega's viva? Does the school hold information on Jose Enrique Molina Vega's viva report and examiner names? This investigator's core intention was to unravel Lien Yuanlong's lies. They asked for information about one of Tsai Ing-wen's classmates, which made it impossible for the school to dodge the question. The investigator simply asked about the existence of the viva report and examiners' names, so there was nothing that could possibly infringe on privacy rights. Susie Morris, an employee at the University of London, responded to the question on whatdottheyknow.com on December 21, 2021. Her letter read, "The University of London has limited information on such items. We keep records on student names, date of conferment, affiliated school name, and thesis titles. All other information is kept at the affiliated school, as in LSE. Regards, Susie." The University of London's response revealed much. There is no way that LSE doesn't have any information related to Tsai's PhD if it existed. Morris very clearly says that the University of London keeps limited information. Everything else should be kept at affiliate schools like LSE. Lien Yuanlong's claim that LSE doesn't hold any of Tsai's records because of administrative intricacies is a lie. Let's take a look at LSE, the University of London, and Tsai Ing-wen's respective stories so far, and where certain things should be kept. Who should keep the name of PhD graduates? The University of London told the ICO it has that on record. However, it has yet to be published in any public capacity. Logically, LSE should also keep this somewhere as well. Where is the viva date and report kept? The University of London has already said it does not have these records and that they are at LSE. LSE's Rachel McGuire once said Tsai's viva took place on Sunday, October 16, 1983. However, other LSE departments have said they do not hold this information. Lien Yuanlong has revealed documents saying Tsai's viva was on October 17, 1983, but the source of that information is unclear. Who keeps information on examiners' names? The University of London says it does not have this information and that LSE does. LSE's Kevin Haynes published a 278-page student record that said Tsai's examiners were supposedly Michael J. Elliott and Leonard H. Lee. However, the LSE Council has already said that the school does not keep this information. Lien Yuanlong also provided Dr. Richard Dale as an examiner. However, that information is sourced from Tsai's memory. Who keeps the viva report? The University of London says it doesn't have it, nor does the LSE Council admit to possessing the viva report. On September 4th, 2019, Tsai Ing-wen showed an unsigned Viva notification memo, which her people said she got from the LSE archive. Such a document would be part of a Viva report. However, there is still no complete Viva report. Right now, nobody who should have it actually does. Who has information on the thesis? The University of London has this information, but it has yet to be published. The LSE Council denies having this information. Lien Yuanlong has submitted unsigned records supposedly obtained from LSE archives that hold this information. In the face of contradicting information from Susie Morris and LSE, Tsai Ing-wen's claims have been disproved. LSE has no information on Tsai Ing-wen's Viva, and the University of London would rather go to court than reveal what information it has. The only possibility is that Tsai's Viva never happened. Democracies born from authoritarianism usually fail to properly rein in presidential powers. Many presidents are allowed to get away with malfeasance. ThesisGate is about strengthening Taiwan's democracy. National security organizations forge evidence and manipulate the justice system. Tsai Ing-wen's ThesisGate legacy is Taiwan's version of Watergate. In 2022, it is everyone's responsibility to make sure Tsai is held accountable.